So your brain on fear. Your brain has 4 responses to a threat to its survival. Okay? Fight, flight, where you run, freeze, and fawn. So we got our little chihuahua there. That's Mr. Fluffy. He's our brain on fight. This is where the brain determines it can kill or neutralize a threat. So it gets strong, goes out there and beats it up or neutralizes it in some way. And this tends to work out what's called cortisol and adrenaline in the body. Helps the body regulate back to a sense of safety so it can be at peace. And this typically will show up in our lives as confrontation, creating conflict, yelling, being physical, assertive, strong, direct. That's where our fight response is showing up. Now, if our brain determines it can outrun or escape the threat, it's going to choose flight. It's going to run. This is where it chooses swift action to escape. This also burns up the big rush of cortisol and adrenaline we have when we feel like our lives are under threat. And this can help us regulate back to safety as long as the environment is secured. And this will show up as avoiding problems, actually running, feeling the need to run, being decisive, being clear, and being quick in action. Then there's this thing called freeze. Okay, your brain determines it can survive by playing dead. So we got like our fainting goat there. It's just clunk. It's not gonna. I'm dead. You don't need to deal with me. This is where we show up with no needs. We become needless. We have no reaction. We're blank-faced. We're rigid. We're still. We're invisible. We have no feelings. This actually locks the body into a tight state of energy freeze, and it's really difficult for it to release unless it goes through a thaw process when the environment is safe. When that typically doesn't happen, it gets stuck in a loop. And that loop creates anxiety, fear, rumination, thought rumination, where you're constantly thinking over and over and over on the same thing, panic, depression, and results in traumatic symptoms. This will show up as procrastination, numbing out, fogging out, Netflixing, you're just going to zone out on Netflix forever, foggy brain, that kind of thing. Then there's this thing called fawn, your brain on fawning. The brain determines it can please the threat, making itself attractive to the threat. This shows up as pleasing, caretaking, regulating the threat's emotions. There is a combination of cortisol, adrenaline, oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin that come together, and it creates what's called a trauma bond or a love addiction to that person. We basically feel love and terror at the same time towards this individual. This is one reason why we stay hooked on them. Also, in fawning, we can't regulate our body back to a sense of safety and relaxation because the threat's constantly making things chaotic and unstable. So, our brain starts to do something very specific. It creates a set of habits that show up as codependency. Guys, your codependent habits are a result of the fawn response in your brain. Your brain is perceiving a threat and experiencing a threat, and it decides, I'm going to try to please it so it will stop trying to hurt me and it will keep me. It will need me, it will keep me so it doesn't throw me away. This is very important because the brain thinks that there's a threat, and we need to understand what that threat is.